Dragon Ball was never known for its consistency. Toriyama tended to write by the seat of his pants, trending more towards rule of cool than cohesive power scaling, and he forgets things, like characters and moons, and that Super Saiyan 2 exists. Oof. I mean, Toriyama's a comedy adventure writer, at least that's what he wanted to be. He kind of fell ass backwards into the whole shonen hamster wheel, but because of that tongue-in-cheek nature, Dragon Ball can do whatever the hell it needs to. And since it's aimed at a younger audience that just wants to see Goku do cool explosion, it works for it. But because there are cool guys like me that still watch this shit, plot holes start to appear. Now, because most Americans never watched OG Dragon Ball and don't remember Roshi blowing up the moon or who Launch is, the first big plot hole I remember those internet guys really latching on to is when Frieza claims that Namek will explode in 5 minutes. And then it takes 9 episodes, making Dragon Ball Z spend 22 minutes of animation to cover 30 seconds. And I remember the actuallys vividly. These are characters that can blow up planets. Clearly the time it takes them to fight isn't 1-to-1. I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, a sounder argument is that Frieza's an unreliable character guessing at the time it takes a planet to explode, but either way, there's too many variables to ruin this joke by overanalyzing it. But in Dragon Ball Super, while Goku is dooming trillions of lives to obliteration, there's a tournament set up with a fixed time limit. A tournament that takes over a quarter of the series. Dragon Ball Super spends over 13 hours of animation on 48 minutes. And that is a joke that I can overanalyze. So it's established that the Tournament of Power, a competition to see which universe deserves not to be massacred, will take 100 tacks, which are quickly hand-waved away as approximately 48 minutes.
Really? Isn't that kind of short, though?
Yeah. For 13 hours of animation, that's a little too little time. But how much too little is it? Why did I write that? How long is the Tournament of Power, really? Well, first, we shouldn't measure the intros, the outros, the next time on Dragon Ball Super, will Goku lose to the fighter we didn't even name? And last time on Dragon Ball Super, Krillin did about as well as you'd expect Krillin to do. And you can't count the mid-rolls, the time it takes the first episode to start the tournament, the time the last episode spends outside of the tournament. Cutting all that brings the Tournament of Power down to about 10 hours and 18 minutes. But that's still not right. I mean, remember Frieza in the 5 minutes? We can't measure the fighting. At this point in Dragon Ball canon, there are multiple characters who can destroy galaxies and stop time, who can say how fast they fight. But if you've seen an episode of Dragon Ball, you know that the fights don't have a whole lot of fighting in them. It's a lot of talking and posturing and screaming and people explaining why the fighters are talking, posturing, and screaming. But the time it takes to talk is measurable, sort of. I mean, we can't just combine all the dialogue. This is a giant tournament. There are characters everywhere reciting exposition at each other about how their powers work. But what if we just track 2 groups? Goku, who shows up every episode so the little kids can clap their hands together and scream, "It Goku!" at the screen. And the bench, where all the characters that aren't Goku try to shout exposition over each other so they can get a little more screen time. So, by tracking the amount of time Goku and the people around Goku talk, and how much time the bench talks, and then by taking the larger of those 2 numbers per episode as a baseline for how much time passed in that episode, you can come up with a lowball estimate of how long the Tournament of Power was. And that number, the lowest lowball you can take for the Tournament of Power, is 2 hours, 21 minutes, and 11 seconds. Or, because the fighting is so fast, they could just be talking fast. Could just sound like this.
Fighting for himself, he fights for all of us. That's the difference here. Piccolo's right. Behind every one of Goku's strikes, there's a whole community of people who throw up with him, scraping him on unimaginable challenges. Each one is...
I guess that's up to you and your headcanon. I mean, Toriyama doesn't give a shit. I mean, really, I don't even give a shit. Not entirely. This was just a minor curiosity I had that I used as an excuse to binge Super rather than writing a new video. So, subscribe.